Welcome back. Today we are continuing my animal cake series with this cute crocodile cake. Now I never thought I'd be describing a crocodile as cute, but here we are. We're starting off with our sheet cake, which we're going to cut into 3 different pieces just with a sharp knife. I also leveled the top of the sheet cake just to make sure that it's nice and flat to make it easier to build our crocodile. Now the goal of this cake was to make it look like the crocodile's head is just peeking out of the water like it's coming up to say hi. So I'm building it on a pretty large rectangular cake board. It's also grease proof, and we're going to cover it with frosting that's blue to make it look like water later in the process. So I used a little bit of my extra cake bits to make the back of the crocodile's neck, and then I also trimmed down the sides of the cake to give the crocodile's head a little bit more shape and make it a little bit more curved. Now it's time to crumb coat our cake, so I'm covering it with some of our buttercream, and I just want to get the entire cake covered in a smooth, thin layer. We're going to pop this in the freezer for about 10 minutes until the frosting is firm to the touch. Then it's time to add on our second thicker layer of frosting, and you can color your frosting green either with a little bit of matcha powder or with some yellow and green gel food coloring. We want this layer of frosting to be thicker than our first layer, and we're going to try to get an even layer all around the cake using our small offset spatula. And then this next step is optional, but if you have a small acetate sheet, you can go ahead and use it to get that frosting super smooth. At this point in the process, I put the rest of my green buttercream in a small piping bag fit with a small round tip like a Wilton 10, and then I piped on the crocodile's eyebrows and nostrils. I smoothed them out with my small piece of acetate sheet, and then I went to piping my eyeballs. So I'm using some white buttercream here and a large round tip. If you don't have these piping tips on hand, you can always just cut your piping bag to about the size of the opening that the piping tip would have had. Or if you're not super comfortable with piping buttercream, you can also use fondant. I've used fondant to make my animal cake eyes and mouths in the past, and it works great. This time I decided just to use buttercream because I had some white and black buttercream on hand already, but it really is all about just doing whatever you're most comfortable with, and with whatever you have on hand. Making a cake from scratch is already hard enough. You don't want to make it any harder than it has to be. So now I'm adding my teeth onto my crocodile cake. I guess you also call this an alligator cake. It has kind of a rounded snout, so really it looks more like an alligator than a crocodile, but that is neither here nor there. At this point in the process, I popped the cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes to help my buttercream firm up, and then I'm using just a piece of paper towel and pressing it against the frosting to add a little bit of texture to it to make the cake look more similar to reptile skin. Now I know this seems a little counterintuitive because we spent a bunch of time smoothing our frosting, so you can skip this step, or if you struggled getting your frosting smooth, this is a great workaround to make your frosting look smooth and textured at the same time, or smoother than it was before. And now I'm adding on some blue buttercream around my cake board like I mentioned earlier to make it look like our little alligator is just popping up out of the water, and I'm using some dark green buttercream to add some little spikes on the back of the crocodile's head and some spots on the side just to make this cake look a little bit more playful. And just like that, our crocodile cake is complete. Well, technically I lied because we still have to add on the party hat, but now this crocodile cake is complete. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear what animal cakes you want to see me make next. I have so much fun making them. I'm sure I have a lot more coming towards you guys in the future. The recipe for this cake is linked in the video description below if you want to make it at home. And until next time, happy baking!